What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock of Truth podcast. Before we get into it, first a word from our presenting sponsor, Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Call Danco to reschedule any service and receive a free oil change when you mention Rock of Truth podcast through the end of November or whenever Danco Joe comes to his senses and stops giving away things. Go to danco.com, Route 4 in Fairfield. Tell him Soppy sent you. All right, Joe. I'm going to let you just rant about basketball to start this thing off.
Well, it's just us two tonight. Statty is not here. We miss our friend Statty, but we're going to rock with what we got tonight. The Rock of Truth is going to rock with what we got. Did you watch it all?
I watched the second half. Most of it. I was kind of, folding clothes, doing some household chores, but I was watching. I watched the second half of today's game. I watched about 5 minutes in the first half against Arizona, and I watched like a couple of minutes against NKU. So I'll let you do all the high level speaking and give the actual insight and breakdown, but just from a not as super deep analysis, all the basketball that I've watched has been very, very bad. They look very bad. I think they've scored like 10 points when I've been watching total in those 3 games. It looks like a complete struggle to put the ball through the orange rim. So you can break it down, but it's been kind of gross to watch.
Yeah,
it's a little harsh, but I think that's pretty accurate.
I mean, you know how big of a fan I am of Bearcat basketball. It's been, I think, like for me, and I was just talking to my dad like a couple minutes ago, and we were having a conversation just about Bearcat basketball in general, and like the last 4 years have just been hard to watch. Like it's been 4 years now of us like struggling to watch Bearcat basketball because it hasn't been good. And the longer you stay bad, the longer you'll be bad, right? Like as a program, like not everyone gets their Luke Fickle to walk in the door and just flip it back to the way it used to be, right? Like I don't think Bearcat fans really realize. Like look at the University of Miami in football. It took USC a really, really long time until they found Lincoln Riley. I could go down the line of great national brands in college football and college basketball that have basically disappeared. UNLV basketball, right? We've got so many different brands across the country I can name that used to be really, really, really good, and they've kind of just disappeared. And I consider Bearcat basketball like a very strong and proud program across the board. And I think a lot of outsiders would agree, actually. Like when people hear about the Bearcats, still to this day, I think their first thought is like the 90s, the Jordan uniforms, all that kind of stuff. Now with more football success, I think that's going to start to change here soon, especially if basketball doesn't start winning. And in no way am I saying Wes Miller can't get the job done. I think he can. I think if I would rant about anything, it's the same thing I talked about last week. It's basically this idea that we don't have an identity. Like every great team, whatever sport it is, needs an identity. And I just don't feel like Wes has brought like that identity to the program. Like I know he was supposed to be like some defensive coach. I know he wants to get up and down and run the way North Carolina runs. And like all that stuff's great. I love that style of basketball. I love that brand of basketball. But ultimately, can this team and the players that are on this team run that brand? And I just don't think that's necessarily true. And I think as a coach, you need to adapt to what you have and try and get to points and spots where you can win games based upon what your personnel is. And now I'm a big fan of like, I don't want to sit here and criticize the man because coaching is really, really, really hard. You know that. I know that. That sometimes it can be the hardest thing because you've got a million people like me and random people sitting on their couch eating potato chips that think they can do a better job than you. It's like, no, you can't. I can't do a better job than Wes Miller. He knows what he's doing. And just because we've had a rough start to his era, it also is dependent on the fact that he's taken over a bad roster. I mean, just to I'm putting it nicely. He's taken over a bad roster. There's not a lot of talent. I could argue right now that the two freshmen, Josh Reed and Daniel Skillings, have more upside than mostly everyone outside of Landers Nolly and maybe Victor Lockman. But man, so I don't think there's any room. Like I see on Twitter all the time, Bearcat fans, they want to get rid of Wes Miller. That's crazy talk. Like that is crazy talk. Like let the man have 3 years before you even start to criticize. We've made this mistake time and time again, blaming and criticizing coaches. Let's just be patient for a little bit. And patience usually in college sports takes longer than a year and a half. I also think we were spoiled with Luke Fickell that after year one, we started winning in year two right away. If Luke Fickell would have lost in year two, people would have called for him to be fired too. So, I mean, I remember at the end of year one, I don't know if you remember, Luke Fickell on Twitter all over, this team's getting worse. They're not getting better. That 4-8 season when he first started. It's like, is he the guy? It's like, wait a second. Like the guy's not been here for longer than a year and we're already going to criticize him. He's trying to build a culture. Culture takes a lot of time. My only question is, what is our culture? What is our identity? I don't see that. And that's what bothers me. It's not the X's and the O's right now. I know they didn't look good tonight. I know they haven't looked good all season. But for me right now, it's more about like, what's our identity? What's our culture? What are we building around? Are we gonna be a defensive team? Let's go in the portal and get guys that can guard the rim, right? Are we going to be an offensive team? Let's get a bunch of shot makers. Like the personnel and the style just don't mix. That's my problem, if that makes sense. I know that was long, but that's kind of where I'm at.
No, that's good. Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point is that nobody has patience anymore. Everybody's just win now, win now, win now. Nobody really gives a shit about like developing guys and stuff like that. And I think in college basketball, a lot of that is to the one and dones. And, you don't really get time to develop these guys. And, but you see it everywhere in sports. Like you said, like college football, everybody wants, especially these big programs where a coach comes in and doesn't turn around right away. They're calling for his head. Young quarterbacks in the NFL, people barely give them a shot. They give them like a year. And because these kids are so damn good now, the Patrick Mahomes and these guys, Joe Burrows that came in and were successful right away, kind of makes it difficult on the other guys who might need a little bit of time, like the Justin Fields, who's, really like kicked it up a notch and looks great. People were calling for him, myself included, like he can't play in the league, where he was picked and stuff. And like you said, it translates right over to this. People don't, want to give anybody time to develop things and it's tough. And I think you said the perfect word, culture. And that's one thing. We didn't have a great roster when Fickell came in. We had an okay roster. But I will say, like, building that culture takes time. And it doesn't matter if people don't buy into it, right? And I think we had okay talent that first year that he was there, 2017. I think we were better than a 4-8 team. I don't think, maybe like 6-6. We could have made a shitty bowl game. We weren't great, but he built this culture and people didn't buy in the first year. And then in the second year, everybody really bought in and look where it took us. We weren't that good of a football team in 2018. Probably not quite there yet in 2019 either, but what made us good was, he instilled this culture in. And I was there when Tuberville and Fickell could not have been more night and day. And, when he came in, these are the pillars of our program. This is what it means to be a Cincinnati Bearcat, tough and nasty. He built that culture and it was super difficult. They made it really difficult because they wanted to weed out the guys who didn't fit the culture and weren't going to buy in. So that first year with any program, I know like Lincoln Riley came in and he's turned things around at USC, but that's also USC. And he brought one of the best, probably the best college quarterback in the country with him and some key transfers. So he's making it work out there, but those things take time, man. And
that's completely different, right? Like you make a great point. We are not USC. Fans need to start to understand that we're not USC. We're not UCLA, right? As much as that hurts people's feelings, we're not Duke. We're not North Carolina. We're not Kentucky. And I think Bearcat basketball is a tier 2 program, but it's not a blue blood. And it's going to take time. I mean, look at how bad Louisville is this year. And we're going to get to see who's worse between the two of us tomorrow night. And that will be one for the ages. The sad part is it's two programs that used to be really, really respected and everyone knew about, and both have fallen off to some degree. I will say one thing though. Coaching is so hard. Like I don't think people realize how hard it is. It's hard to win. And like right now, dude, I'm contemplating, I coach high school girls basketball, so it's not the same as, Division 1 Bearcat basketball, right? It's completely different. But from a standpoint of coaching, right, I'm contemplating right now, we started 0-2 this season. I'm contemplating switching our entire offense from what we've learned right now and switching it to something completely different. Right? Because like I want to put my girls in the best position to win. Like, and losing stinks and it's not fun, not only for me, but for them. And like, you don't think Wes Miller is trying to figure out ways to win basketball games? He is. He cares about winning and losing. Any coach in this business does, right? And I think that the hard part is you want to put these kids you're coaching in the position to win. So you're trying to figure out different ways to do it. And it's really, really hard. And everyone in the stands and everyone, anywhere around the world can sit around and say, hey, I could do a better job than him or her. And I could sit around and say, Wes shouldn't have done this, this, and this tonight. And I might be completely right. Right. But when you're in those situations, in the heat of the moment, and whether it's substitutions, right, or who you're subbing in and out, you build relationships with some of these kids, right? And it's like, you don't want to tear their confidence apart. If they turn the ball over 5 times in a row, you have a relationship with these kids. You care about these kids. So when you start caring about these kids, like, you don't want to, like, everyone on Twitter is like, it should be easy to just yell at that kid. It's not easy just to yell at a kid for turning the ball over 5 times, especially when you've built into them and you're trying to help them gain confidence to handle the basketball. Like, those things are hard as a coach. So for me, I think I get frustrated with fans who like sit on Twitter and probably have never played a game in their life. I know some of them haven't played a game in their life, and they can sit around and just say this, this, and this, and what makes Wes special. Like, we'll give it some time. It's not even like halfway through year 2, and we're already like freaking out. Like, I could have told you this team wasn't going to be good at the start of the year. Like, they're still playing some of the same guys from last year's team that we were so frustrated with. And it's going to take time, I think, to build that culture. But yeah, I mean, this coaching thing's tough. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, we don't have to talk about it much longer, but coaching's tough. Winning is even tougher. And I just think we sometimes just freak out and don't look at the big picture. And that's coming from someone who can be really, really negative sometimes. Like, me, I'll be the first one to say if Wes isn't doing a good job or if I think Luke should play someone different than who he's playing. But asking for someone to lose their job over small little details in coaching to me is crazy. Like, we're not even through year 2 yet. Let's wait till at least the end of year 2 before we start to kind of make those conclusions of what we want to do or what we don't want to do and things like that.
Yeah, and it's hard. And he might not be able to even run the offense that he wants to run just based on the personnel that he has.
Yeah.
He only has one recruiting class here under his belt of his guys.
Well, we got this is our first real recruiting class of freshmen, right? So this is the first group of freshmen he's gotten in the building. I mean, that first year he tried to go the transfer route, and I don't think it really paid off. And I think he's trying to figure out what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do. That's part of coaching. Once again, that's really hard. I think in the transfer portal this year, they have 3 guys, 2 of them who haven't been great so far, and one in Landers Nolly who's been really, really good at times, and he's also been really, really bad at times. Like, he scored, I think him and David DeJulius combined for 3 points tonight in their loss. Like, anytime you have your 2 best players combined for 3 points in a game against a ranked opponent or a team right outside the top 25, you're not going to win games. So once again, we can blame Wes Miller all we want, but if Landers Nolly and David DeJulius score 3 points combined, it doesn't matter if he's John Wooden or Coach K, he's not going to win with that team. That's just a fact. So, and then people will say, well, maybe he shouldn't have recruited them, or that's a load of crap too. Landers Nolly scored 33 points last night. I mean, the guy went from 33 points to 1 point tonight. Like, I don't know as a coach how you can't control that. Like,
yeah. And there's never been a harder time. You've mentioned, coaching is really hard, and I can attest it is really hard. There's never been a harder time or a place to coach than college athletics right now, right? Because these kids can transfer at any time and there's no consequence. They don't have to sit out or anything like that. I mean, the transfer portal has made it free agency. So the way you coach kids and, recruit kids it's got to be different than it was 10 years ago. It just has to, because it's so easy for them. The kid that you might have been really hard on just because what's best for him, you might have to take a different approach now, because if you are really hard on him, even though it's something that you think will better him, he can just be say, screw this. I don't want to deal with this, and he can
Well,
transfer and go somewhere else. So
well,
it's
that's part of what that's part of what makes it so hard. I talked earlier about the relationship piece. If I build a relationship with one of my players, right, and they have the ability to enter the transfer portal at any time, just like that, snap of a finger, call mom and dad, hey, I'm transferring. Let's tell we're going to announce this on Twitter, right? They can do it. All they need to send is a tweet, right, and they can say they're announcing they're going into the transfer portal. Okay, it's that easy now. And the problem with that is you might have a kid like, okay, a Jeremiah Davenport. Okay, let's use him for example. I think JD, and I hope no one takes this the wrong way, but like JD could be very, very helpful for a Bearcat basketball team and a good basketball team. I think JD's best role would be a 6th, 7th guy right off the bench that comes in and makes open shots and knocks down shots when he has good shots, right? What's happened is, and I think this is just because of what we have on the team, he's become a guy that we look to get the ball and ask to score in ways he can't score in, which is unfair to the kid. Like, I'm not coming after Jeremiah. Like, that's unfair to him as well, right? But then there's like, you want to keep a Jeremiah Davenport because if you get 3 kids in the next recruiting class that can start and play, you want a kid like Jeremiah Davenport coming off the bench and making a lot of threes for you and knocking shots down and giving you good minutes. But if you don't play Jeremiah Davenport right now and you challenge him on shot selection and all these different things, yeah, he might, pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm transferring. If and that's the hard part of it, is like you have to build these relationships, and sometimes you have to do it. I don't mean it like I don't want to do it from a standpoint of hurting the team, but sometimes it happens because you're trying to keep these relationships. You care about the kids. You want them to stay. You don't want them to transfer, and that becomes hard in a multitude of different ways. We could go on and on about this, but I think we've talked enough about basketball, don't you?
I don't have anything else to add unless you have something else you want to throw in.
Nah, I got nothing. Let's talk about a big game on Friday. Let's focus on Friday. How about that?
Yeah, let's get into that. We don't really need to talk about the Temple game. I don't know if you watched it. There wasn't much going on. Obviously, the big kicker is that Ben went down and got hurt. Evan played the entire second half, the end of the first half, entire second half. He came in and he did what they asked him to do. He controlled the game, controlled the ball. He didn't turn it over. He didn't make any bad mistakes. He was 12 of 17 for 127 yards, 9 rushes, 24 yards. He played pretty well. He made some good throws. He had that one play that was electric that got called back on the kind of a bullshit penalty. I don't know if I saw it or not, but Monty, I guess, stepped out and they said it was illegal touching. But I mean, that's what he can give you is plays like that where he's running around in the pocket, making people miss. Looked Mahomes like, right? So he came in there, played well, controlled the ball. That was the biggest takeaway from the game. I mean, Ben was on the sideline out of uniform with a boot on his foot and crutches. I don't have any special information. I'm not going to be here like breaking news. I don't know anything that the public doesn't know, but I know Fickle came out with a statement today saying that he probably won't be able to practice all week and be a game time decision. I think if we know anything from him, he's not one to kind of make that information public. Why would he? Like, if there was a decision already made, but just based on what I saw on the sidelines and Ben in the boot and everything, I'd be shocked if he plays on Friday or for the rest of the year. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he does, but it looks like it's going to be EP3, man. That's what the people wanted. That's what they're going to get. So first career start in the biggest game of the year. Huge game. I mean, it's for all the marbles. Exciting stuff, man. Drama.
You know what? I mean, obviously defense played great against Temple. Obviously, I think the 2 takeaways are defense played really well and Ben got hurt. Evan stepped in. I think when it comes to Friday, like you said, I think we're going to see Evan be the starter. I think we're going to see Ben on crutches on the sideline, unfortunately. So hopefully he can get better. Hopefully it's not too serious, but I think it's going to be Evan on Friday. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think this is I think this is kind of a game where we're gonna sit back and just see, what we have when it comes to number 3 and get a good idea of what he brings to the table from the quarterback standpoint, right? Like I know he can use his legs. I think a lot of times he comes in games, we see him use his legs. I think we see how efficient he is in that standpoint, but I don't think we've seen a full game of what he can do with his arm and how he can make reads at the line of scrimmage. I mean, you're going to be able to, I think next week's going to be fun because win or lose, we're going to be able to break down on the pod kind of what Soppy Boy saw and what he was thinking from a standpoint of how the Bearcats look. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for this game. Obviously, it's to play in the conference championship. If they win, they play at home. I mean, what more could you want if you're Evan making your first career start? I mean, this is the shit that you dream about, right?
Yeah.
In a start in the biggest moment at home in front of the hometown crowd that absolutely loves them. Sure, he'll have a bunch of family in town. I think they're based out of Cincinnati, but like everybody's going to be there. It's a huge moment for him and this team. So again, yeah, hopefully, we're thinking of you, Ben. Hopefully you get better. Hopefully he's able to go. I just would be shocked if he is. So we're gonna ride with Evan, and like you said, we'll see what we got. He's played a good amount of football. He really has, just not a whole lot of meaningful football at this point. This is his first career start, so it'll be interesting. I mean, you get to build an entire game plan around him. He's got a full week of reps with the first team if he is the guy. So he should be prepared to go. I've seen a lot of Evan can be really special. And I know we're the biggest Ben supporters, but like that's nothing against Evan. I've worked with Evan. Evan's a great kid. He's a great leader. The guys love him, absolutely love him in that locker room. And it's his time to shine, man. So I'm interested to kind of see what the game plan looks like, what their ideas are, and how they go about it.
What's kind of from your standpoint, what are some things we need to do on Friday in order to get a win so we can have a return game the next weekend in the NIP?
Establish the run game. Number one, that's what we've been talking about. I think they'll probably lean on that a little bit more heavily this week. And Evan is a key part of that run game. And that's what he's really good at. Dez was a great runner. Dez was faster in line, but Evan's a special runner. I can tell you that. He's a lot more effective of a runner than Dez is. He's not quite as fast, but he's shifty. He can make people miss. So I think that's what he's most comfortable with. You got to run him. You have to. And they probably don't want to just because now you have a depth issue. That's the biggest thing. So if Ben's not available, you don't have much depth at that position. That's something that they got to worry about. The next guy in line is Brady Lichtenberg, who I think is going to be a good player one day, but he's still a redshirt freshman who has maybe taken 3 snaps in his career. And that's, 2 handoffs and a knee. And I've been in his position before. So I get how they're probably, a little bit nervous about that depth. So they could be a little bit worried about running Evan just because he is 6'4", 180 or 185 or whatever. He's a string bean, but he's a tough kid. So you have to worry about depth at that point. But I think if you got to go out and put everything on the table to win the game, you're going to have to. This is a good football team they're playing. They're not playing some 2-8, Temple or whoever it might be. This is a good team. Tulane just beat the shit out of SMU 59-24 last week. So I think Evan has to be a part of the run game, and that's what he's most comfortable with and effective. I would run him early just to kind of get the hits out of the way, get him comfortable. Yeah. You got to run the offense that he's most comfortable with. And, it's a lot of faxing with the tight end, leaking out into the flat. I would expect Josh to get a lot of targets this week. That, basically triple option where he can hand it, pull it, or dump it to the tight end, a play that, we talked about before. We used to run with Denbrock a bunch, but using that, because I think Evan's really good at that, and that'll be effective. So I'd expect Josh to get a lot of targets, and then probably just a lot of stuff that he's the most comfortable with, full field progressions. So, you're looking A to B to C to D, right? Just working across. That's what I was always most comfortable with. I think that's the easiest thing as a quarterback, because you know where your eyes are supposed to be. It doesn't matter what coverage they're running. You just go through your read as it is. I'd call a lot of that. So you just got to call what you're most comfortable with, what he's most comfortable with.
What's going to help them win, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. What's going to help them? What's going to put Evan in the best position to be successful? And I think that all starts with the run game. And that's something that they've had a little bit of trouble establishing this year, but I think it's something that they're really going to emphasize and lean on this week.
What about how about the fact that Dante Corleone is a redshirt freshman?
Yeah, he's a stud.
I mean, listen, I as good as Ivan Pace has been for the Bearcats this year, and as much as like at the beginning of the year we were like Ivan Pace is the best player on this defense, Corleone's giving him a run for his money, in my opinion. Like he makes plays, dude. He impacts almost every play the way he like dominates the line of scrimmage. I mean, it is impressive. We haven't had someone like that. We've had guys like we've had some really good defensive linemen, but a dude that big in the middle, and honestly, Jawan right next to him is huge as well. Like those two together. But I don't know. I've been pretty impressed with what he brings to the table. I could see him being a high draft pick one day.
I hope so. He's a disruptor. It's really what he is. Even if he's not making plays, he's taking on two guys and disrupting and open up the holes for guys like Ivan to fill. So he's a really good player. He's played really well. Yeah, we were talking nonstop about Ivan in the beginning of the season, and he's been a little bit quiet the past couple of weeks. I'm sure he's still in the box score or whatnot, but just those insane plays. But he's been pretty steady throughout the season. But yeah, I think Dante, could be giving him a run for his money to be the best player on the defense.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to talk like when we talk Tulane this week, Friday, who do you think if we beat Tulane, who do you think we're going to get in the conference championship game the next week? Who do you think we'll end up playing? UCF?
Wouldn't it be UCF if they win? If they
Well,
what is the? I know they screwed it up.
There could potentially be a three-way tie between Navy, Tulane, and not Navy, Tulane, UCF, and Houston if we win. There could be a three-way tie. And if we lose, there could be a three-way tie as well still.
Really?
And it goes, I think it goes to the highest ranked team in the CFP rankings.
Which would probably be Tulane.
Potentially, but if they lose to us this week, I don't see. I mean, but I guess UCF's had some pretty bad losses. And they got blown out by ECU. They lost to Navy. I mean, they go in waves. Like we talked about, remember when we talked about before the UCF game? We had that long conversation about how like Gus Malzahn does the old, he'll like back when he was at Auburn, he'll beat Alabama, he'll beat LSU, and he'll lose to Mississippi State at home. It's like it doesn't make any sense. Make it make sense. It's like that. I mean, it's like that Auburn team a few years ago that beat Alabama and Georgia in that same season, and then lost to UCF in the Peach Bowl. I mean, do you remember that game?
Yeah.
It was like that. Like they lose to teams they have no business losing to, which is crazy to me. So obviously that's going to hurt your ranking, especially when you're playing in the American. It's not like you're playing in the SEC and you have chances to beat LSU, Alabama, Georgia. Your best wins are Cincinnati, right? And we're sitting at 24. So if you lose to ECU and Navy, you're probably not going to have the best ranking, I don't think, come next Tuesday night.
So if we beat Tulane and UCF loses, that's when that scenario would come into play, right? If UCF wins,
no, because UCF has 2 conference losses, and us and Tulane only have 1, and Houston has 2 conference losses. So like, here's what would happen: UCF has the head-to-head advantage against both of us. So if UCF wins and Houston loses, right? UCF's going to get in the conference championship game regardless. But if Houston wins this week and UCF win, and then whoever loses, it's a 3-way tie because we all have 2 losses in the conference. So head-to-head goes away because I don't think Houston has played UCF, and I don't think Houston's played either us or Tulane.
Oof. Who the hell who does Houston play this week?
I don't know. Look it up. Here, I'm gonna look it up right now. I should know.
I can look it up. Houston plays Tulsa in Houston.
Okay, and they are, yeah, and they only have 2 losses, like I talked about. So
Houston would come out of nowhere if that would be wild if they end up in the conference championship because I haven't heard shit about Houston all year. I
have
know
they?
they're the
What's their
favorite coming
who?
in.
Have, who have they played? I mean, well, Houston has, in my opinion, Houston doesn't really have a chance to make the conference championship game because they're not ranked. So they wouldn't. If it came to who was higher ranked, they wouldn't get it, and they lost to Tulane.
Yeah, they lost to Tulane by 3 and they lost to SMU by 14.
I guess if it came down to us, them, and UCF, maybe. But I don't see how the committee ranks them above us or UCF. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. It would suck to play Tulane back to back. That's a shitty spot to be in. Have to play a team back to back weeks. I know that's what we did against Memphis in 2019 and lost both. I think that was 2019, right? Or was that 2018?
Yeah. I think it was the year we lost to UCF. Or Memphis back to back. That was 2018. That was the year of the Birmingham Bowl, right?
2019 was my last year playing, and we won the conference championship in 2020, 2021.
Oh, yeah, you're right. 2019 was the Birmingham Bowl year. 2018 was the Military Bowl.
2018, UCF beat Memphis in the conference championship. 2019, Memphis beat us, I believe.
We beat 2019 was the year where Sauce as a freshman had that pick 6 at home against UCF. It was the same year we got beat by Ohio State by 42. So that was the year that we went and played Memphis at Memphis twice in a row. And Dez played the first game, got hurt. Ben Bryant started in the conference championship.
Ben started the
Oh, that's right.
conference championship. Ben
Yep.
started the first
That's
game.
right. You're right. That's my bad. Apologies. But no, Memphis that was the same thing. So I hate that. I hope we don't have to do that again. We almost had to do it with Tulsa a few years ago, remember? But then there was that COVID thing that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That was a shit show.
do you
But
do you my one question this week, okay? As we talk more Tulane game, my other question is going to be for you. Like, what do we think the crowd's going to look like at Nippert?
I really hope it's packed. I really do. I'd be very disappointed if it's not. Like we talked about last week or whenever it was, noon, the day after Thanksgiving is tough. A lot of kids are going home. Luckily, I think a lot of Cincinnati kids are from Cincinnati. So that helps. Hopefully people are in town too from like other universities or just family and stuff are in town and are willing to go to the game. That's a huge game. I mean, the atmosphere plays. Obviously, home field advantage is a huge thing for us. I mean, however many games we've won in a row at NIP, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. I know the program does in protecting the NIP, and that winning streak. And the rowdier the crowd, the more people there, the better it is.
Better we play.
And we need that, especially in this week with a quarterback making his first career start. I mean, we need that extra advantage, the 12th man, right?
Now, yeah. Now, if we play UCF next week at home in the conference title game, I can promise you that we will not have to worry about the atmosphere. It will be rocking.
Yeah.
But this week, day after Thanksgiving, noon game, that's hard. I mean, people are going to be shopping Friday morning, coming off Thanksgiving dinner, maybe even Thanksgiving lunch and dinner. Like, that's a hard ask. Not necessarily that it's a hard ask. It's just there's a lot going on. It's like the worst possible time, in my opinion. So, but people need to show up. Also, USA. We talked about this last week. USA England in the middle of the game. Yeah. I know a bunch of people are going to be watching that. So that's difficult, not easy, but I'm excited. Hopefully people show up and are loud and it's awesome, but you just never know.
I believe in Bearcat faithful. They've been packing that place for the past 2 years and have done a great job and have made a really hard place to play for opposing teams. So I believe in them. It is, like you said, it's a little bit of a hard ask. But at the same time, man, I mean, come out and support this team. They've been great for the past couple of years. And they need Bearcat faithful there, man. So
Are
I
you
really hope they pull through.
are you going to be at the game?
I wish.
Dude, what's going on? Aren't you back in Cleveland?
I'll be in Cleveland on Thursday.
So you can't make a little road trip down on Friday.
I haven't really made it. Maybe I have to rethink my whole plan.
I mean, I'm not trying to question your fandom here, but I feel like you should be at the game on Friday. Like, you got to come check out a tailgate. I think it's just you've never seen a game there from the stands, you know? Like, you're like that janitor in the Rudy movie where, he's like Rudy's like, they have that, that whole conversation they've got, and he's like, I never seen the field from the stands. He's
Yeah.
like, you were a player, like that's kind of how it is for you right now. You're acting like the janitor, like you're not good enough to come into the stands to watch the games with the normal folk,
The thing that puts me in a hard spot is that the game's at noon. And if it was like a 4 o'clock game, then yeah, get up early, drive 4 hours, and I'm there. The noon thing makes it a little bit difficult, as well as the fact that I don't have a car because my car's in Florida. So I'll have to try to rearrange some things. And I didn't put a whole lot of thought into it, but now I have some phone calls I got to make and decisions to make after we get off this podcast. I'd love to be there. And if I can't make it this week, like definitely next year. I hate saying next year, but I'll definitely be at a home game.
Definitely next year. If not Friday, you'll be at a game next year. Yeah.
I'll catch them in 2023.
We'll believe it when we see it.
I'd
Like,
love to
I,
be here.
I think it would be cool if Soppy's like first game as a fan was like against Oklahoma at like 7 p.m. on a Saturday night in Clifton.
That would be wild.
So I'm kind of like, if I knew the schedule right now and who we played at home next year, I could make that call for you. But Friday's a big one still. We got to vote, we play to, what does Fickle always say? We play to compete for championships. And we got a chance to compete for championships this weekend.
What more could you ask for, man? At home, playing a ranked football team.
Yeah.
With a chance to go to the conference championship and keep it in Cincinnati. What more could you ask for? You couldn't ask for anything else.
Yeah, it's the stuff you dream of as a player, as a coach, as a fan.
I'm telling you, and then you got a hometown hero making his first career start at quarterback.
Listen, we got to forget about
it, Joe. Write a movie about it.
We got to forget about Ohio State beating us by 30 in basketball today. We're going to have to forget about potentially losing to Louisville tomorrow. And we're going to have to focus on the Tulane Green Wave on Friday afternoon for a chance at a conference championship game the following Saturday in historic Nippert Stadium. What do you think about that? I mean, that gets me fired up.
It gets me going.
Yeah.
It gets me going. And if you're going to win it for anybody, if you need any extra motivation, win it for our new biggest fan, Dana Beers. Am I right? This guy became a Bearcat fan, committed, has watched 2 hard losses from the basketball team right off the bat. We can't let him down.
No. But you know what's fun? Like, can I just like vent on something real quick? Like, I see a bunch of people like, I don't know, in his comments, like Dana Beer is going to enter the transfer portal already, like after the 2 basketball losses. And the funny thing for me is, like, I always looked at it this way, and I know you being a Browns fan, like, where I'm coming from with this. I don't know how I could, like, now knowing what I know, I don't know how I could ever root for the Patriots or the Lakers or, who else is really, really good? The Yankees, the Dodgers. Like, how is it fun? Ohio State, even? Like, all my friends I know that are Ohio State fans, like, they barely watch any of the games. They couldn't name like 10 of the players. They're not really as like committed. I mean, I've never met like an Ohio State fan, like seriously, that's a bigger Ohio State fan than I'm a Bearcat fan. And I take great pride in that, by the way, Soppy. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. I take pride in that. But what I'm going to say is, as a Bearcat fan, it makes the wins so much sweeter. Like as a Browns fan, don't like when you win on a Sunday, there's nothing better. Like you might take a ton of losses, like, and we're gonna take them on the chin over and over and over again. But ultimately, like the more we win games, the better it gets, right? Like there's nothing better than making a college football playoff as a Cincinnati Bearcats. When you make the college football playoff at Ohio State, it's just expected. There's nothing special about it. Like you got to win the national championship or the season stunk. Like that's not how it is as a Bearcat fan. And maybe that's, not the right mentality, but I'm going to sit back and say like, man, you just in like such a better way to enjoy life. Like wins are sweeter. Beating Northern Kentucky on the road means more, in Clifton. Like, I mean, I don't know if it sounds that great now that I'm talking about it, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, man. I mean, it makes it way more sweeter, right? The trials and tribulations make the
Listen, life is a wave. Look, this, Serenity talks about riding the wave. How are we supposed to ride the wave in life if we're rooting for Ohio State? The wave's always up. You can't have a tidal wave on every single, day of your life. Sometimes you need to get hit by the wave, and your stomach, smack the bottom of the ocean floor to really know, what it feels like to be a true champion. You know what I'm saying? You get where I'm coming from?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, I'm hoping you are, because that's pretty awesome to think about.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, man. People get upset because the Bearcats haven't, looked like they have last year, but they're what? 8-2, 7-2, whatever the hell it is. They're
9-2, brother. We're 1 win away from 10.
9-2. I got a future on them to win 10 games. So this is even more. This is money in my bank account if they win this game. Like you said, man, that shit's getting me fired up. It's not earned, Joe. Like you said, we're not Ohio State. We don't have the talent just to walk out there and we just step on the field and we're better. Sorry, I don't know if I said it's not earned. It is earned. We got to earn our wins, and we've done that time and time again for the past couple of years. And that's what we got to do on Friday, man. We're not just going to walk out there and say, hey, we're the Cincinnati Bearcats, and Tulane's going to be like, all right, cool. Y'all got this.
In life,
smack them in the mouth and earn that shit.
And in life, you know this better than anyone. So does Coach Fickle. You don't get what you deserve. You get what you
take.
You get what you take. We know that.
If you want it, you got to take it.
Bearcat fans have to come to a point where they get that quote in the back of their minds, and all they think about is that quote. Okay, that's gonna be our defining quote as Bearcat fans for the rest of this year in both football and basketball. Right? Like, we're gonna have to find ways to win in hoops. We're gonna continue to find ways to win in football, and we're gonna have a great attitude moving forward.
I love it.
Hey,
I love it. Bearcat fans, start drinking on Wednesday night. Go to the bars, do that thing, roll it over into Thursday. Maybe take it down a little bit notch because you're going to be with your family and all that. Just kind of sip some bourbon, take it a little easy, but keep the train rolling. And 8 a.m., show up to Jerry Gate and get it flowing, man. Get in your body, get in your system, be rowdy for 3.5, 4 hours.
Come on.
Out in historic Nippert Stadium, man. And let's make this shit happen.
Let's do it. All right. Now for our new fun segment. What did we end up calling our segment, by the way? What was it again?
We never even came out. It was top 5, and then it ended up becoming 4. And then now we're doing like snake drafts and stuff. So I don't even know. I don't even know what to call it.
The Rock of Truth, snake draft, 4 picks, whatever it's called. That's what we're going to do right now. And today's is going to be awesome. We only got 2 people, so hopefully it will be quicker. But we're actually going to rank who are the 4. We're going to draft who are the 4 Bearcats you would like to eat a Thanksgiving dinner with. Okay. So who are the 4 Bearcats you want to eat a Thanksgiving dinner with? I have the first pick. We've decided that before this episode. I have the first pick. Okay. And with the first pick, I am going to take the late, great Jimmy Nippert. Okay. A guy who died on the football field.
Literally
sacrificed himself for Bearcat Nation. And who knows what the Bearcats would be today without the great Jimmy Nippert playing through injuries in the midst of doctors telling him not to, because what Jimmy Nippert knows that we don't know, he knows all about what being a Bearcat's all about. I feel like Jimmy Nippert's not talked about enough. I mean, you love Jimmy Nippert. Can you like talk about Jimmy Nippert a little bit before you make your pick?
I love what Jimmy Nippert. I mean, he is Cincinnati football. He put his life on the line to get the extra 3 yards or 2 inches or whatever the hell the saying is. I mean, he literally left it all on the field for the Bearcat Nation. What more can you ask of a guy? I mean, that's what we do it for. We do it for Jimmy Nippert. And, you know, people don't know this, but that statue on top of the student section, his tombstone, his casket is in there, cemented. He's buried. He's buried on top of the student section under that monument. People don't know that.
Brendel doesn't even know that.
Brendel doesn't even know that. He comes in here with all of his crazy Cincinnati facts and that he found Gary Clark and everything, but he doesn't know the secret that Jimmy Nippert is buried in the stadium
underneath the great historic Nippert Stadium.
Yeah.
Jimmy. That's my pick. You go ahead. You're up.
That's hard to follow.
He honestly, like, as many great Bearcats as there are that you could have dinner with, a Thanksgiving meal with, he's got to be up there as one of the coolest. Because people that don't know his story, like, it actually is, like, I mean, you know, it was so long ago, right? Like, nowadays, I don't know if they would have had the same issues with what was going on with them as they do, you know. What was it? Wasn't it a cleat, like a spike that his leg or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that nowadays with our medical teams and stuff like that, they'd be able to take care of something like that. But it is, I mean, it's kind of it's a crazy story. I mean, especially back then, like the time they were playing in and stuff like that, the dude was just like risking it all out there for Bearcat Nation. It deserves a Thanksgiving meal conversation. Just ask him, like, what does it mean to be a Bearcat? Like, why'd you do it? I feel like it's a fair question, don't you?
I think it is. I'm over here getting nervous because I don't know how to follow that, Joe. I really don't. I don't know what to say. I don't know who I'm going to pick. It feels a whole lot like the Bearcats Legends conversation we had last week. So I'm blanking over here, dude. I kind of want you to just tell me your 4. I want you to tell me, you're at the head of the table, what Bearcat legends are surrounding you. You're the Bearcat historian.
Okay.
I want you to just give me your round table.
Jimmy Nippert, Jason Kelsey, and I want him wearing like the same outfit he wore at the Eagles parade.
Yeah.
But like, instead of green and black, I want it to be red and black.
Yeah.
You know? Art Long. Art Long was a famous player for Bob Huggins back in the day. He punched a cop horse. It was all over the news. He punched a horse. So he didn't punch a cop. He punched a cop horse. I just kind of want to ask him, like, what was going through your mind that night? Like, did the cop say something to you? Did the horse, did he like give you a look? You know,
Yeah,
like what made you punch the horse? So I want to kind of, you know, I kind of want to figure out that. And then my 4th one would probably be, I think my 4th one's either going to be the Big O, because of how much of a legend he is in Cincinnati. I mean, he's got his own statue outside of Fifth Third. Or honestly, I think it would kind of be fun to have Travis Kelsey like across the table from Jason. I mean, as good as their podcast is, that makes for some great Thanksgiving conversation, don't you think?
Yeah. I think so. I love those picks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you four dishes that are going to be on the table. Okay. These are the 4 staples
Okay.
of Thanksgiving dinner. This is what you guys
Okay. 4 staples
that I'm preparing for this dinner. Okay. 1, obviously, you have to do turkey. How we're going to prepare it, I've never done this. I've never tried it, but I'd love to deep fry it. I'll figure it out. Have you ever deep fried turkey?
No, but that sounds like it could taste really good.
Yeah, I've never had it either, but it looks really good, and I've always wanted to try it. So I'm gonna make that happen for you guys. I feel like that's something Danco Joe would be able to do. I just got a feeling he seems like a guy who could deep fry a turkey if we needed him to. So I'm gonna provide that. Then my personal favorite, sweet potato casserole.
Dude, I love sweet potatoes.
Like the melted marshmallows on top.
Oh, so good.
Maybe
It's
like
so good.
some pecans in there.
Mmm.
I love that. And I'm gonna make that happen for you. And then I'm gonna go with the sister of sweet potato casserole, mashed potatoes. Have to have mashed potatoes. I think that's a staple of Thanksgiving dinner.
What's your fourth?
I'm kind of going back and forth. Do we get a vegetable in there? Do we
Maybe a green bean casserole?
potentially a green bean casserole? That could be a play.
What about stuffing?
Stuffing was the other thing that I was thinking about. I think those two, you can't go wrong with either. I think they'd be good options, but what I'm going to do is just bring out the dessert, pumpkin pie.
Great. I love that actually.
That's I'm gonna be chefing it up while you're asking Jimmy Nipper what it was like to die in the field for the Bearcats,
Yeah.
all that jazz. I'll be in the kitchen, just getting my thing going while the Lions are getting the shit kicked out of them at 12:30, versus whoever the hell they're playing. I think that's our ideal Cincy Thanksgiving dinner right there.
Yeah. I love it.
You want to do locks?
I do. I do want to do locks. Let's do locks of the week.
My lock of the week last week hit, by the way. I think I had like LSU minus 16 against UAB, and they beat them by like 31, kicked the shit out of them. So I'm on a hot streak. I'm pretty sure Danco Joe was 3-0, or definitely at least 2-1, I believe. His picks were good. I don't remember what stat he picked. Do you remember what you did?
Yeah, I picked Navy to beat money line to beat the Knights.
There
And
you
then
go.
I also picked UCLA money line to beat USC. I came a little short there, so I went 1-1. I have 2 picks this week though.
Let him go. Let him rip.
Okay. I'm gonna pick Bearcats cover. Okay, 2-point spread, 2-point favorites. I'm gonna pick Bearcats to cover, and I'm going to also pick. Okay, my other pick is gonna be Michigan to cover.
Oof. Really?
Yeah. 7.5 favorites for Ohio State. I think Ohio State wins by about a field goal or 7 points. I don't think they get to 7.5 quite,
Yeah. I
Like
think
I
Ohio,
don't think they won't quite get to 7.5. Like I think they'll be right on the edge, but I don't think they'll get quite there.
yeah. That's gonna be a great game. I'm super excited to watch that game. I think Ohio State's gonna win. I agree with you though. I think it's gonna be at least a 7-point game or under.
Yeah.
I don't
What do
think
you got? What do you got?
I think 7.5 is a lot. I'm looking through these games here. I didn't come that prepared this week. I just kind of want to see something and have it pop for me. Um, Oregon State is an interesting game. Auburn, Alabama, Louisville, Kentucky. It is rivalry week, I guess. The more I read through this, the more I realize why these matchups are so enticing. This is bad radio right here, but I want something to really speak to me before I shout it out. Notre Dame, USC. That's an interesting game, Joe. USC minus 5.5 at home against Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of like the Irish, dude. I think the Irish are playing really good. Like I don't think the Pac-12 is any good. I don't really. Who has USC played?
Yeah, that's a good question. Washington.
They haven't played. Have they played Oregon?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So I think UCLA is good. I think it was a good win. They also gave up 48 points to UCLA, so it's not like it wasn't some defensive battle.
I truly think Caleb Williams I think he's going to be the next great NFL quarterback. I think Bryce Young, I know he's not draft eligible this year. Like Bryce Young, I think is going to be really good. I think CJ Stroud is going to be a really good draft pick. But I think Caleb Williams is. I don't really agree with Colin Cowherd's takes often anymore, but he was comparing him to the next Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's true. I think Caleb Williams is the best college quarterback. I think he's really special, so it's hard for me to pick against him. But I do like what Notre Dame's doing. Washington versus Washington State in Pullman. Washington State's the 13th team in the country, and they're -2. I like that. But I think what my pick is going to be kind of boring, dude, but I'm going to keep riding LSU. I don't know why they keep giving them these like shitty lines. They're playing Texas A&M, who's terrible, at Texas A&M, and there was like 10 people in the stands at Texas A&M at Kyle Field last week. It's just -10. LSU's -10. I think they're gonna beat them by 21.
Yeah.
It's the third week in a row I've picked LSU, which is kind of boring, but they just keep giving really good lines. I don't know
Dude,
why.
I
The makers don't believe in the Tigers.
love it.
So that's my.
Can you give us before we hop off today, can you give us a score prediction for the UC Tulane game?
Yes. I think it's gonna be a dogfight, dude. I think it's gonna come down to like a turnover late. I really think it could be anybody's game. But I'm a positive guy. I think the Bearcats are going to win 27-24.
Okay. I got the Bearcats winning by 3 also with a Ryan Coe game-winning field goal. What do you think about that?
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. What's the score?
Time expiring.
What do you got of the score?
20-17.
I like that a lot. I think 27 might be like a lot of points for us, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I see it as like we go down, kick a field goal. There's like 40 seconds left. They put together a couple plays, and we're getting a little bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And then pick a Bearcat, maybe Javon Hicks, Arquan Bush is going to make like game-ending interception.
Love it.
To seal the deal.
I love it. That's like Bearcat fashion. Up like 27-14. Tulane gets a field goal. Then they score a touchdown late. And then they get the ball back and they're driving. And we need like a heroic play to win the game. That's like Bearcat fashion.
Seen a lot of that. Seen a lot of that in that state my day.
Dana Beers, like congrats to Dana Beers. He gets to watch that. Like, who wants to watch Ohio State beat, whoever, Nebraska or Rutgers by 40 points when you can watch the Cincinnati Bearcats take down the Tulane Green Wave by 3 points with a dramatic late game interception? Like, that's what being a fan's all about. I mean, me and you know that, though. Like, we live it.
That's what gets the blood pumping in the veins.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, brother. I'm excited. I'm excited for you to potentially make your first trip down to Clifton for a first fan experience for you.
Yeah. We got to sort that out.
Talk with your girl, talk with your family, the close people around you, have some conversations and get back to me on that. Does that sound good?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Either way, if I'm there or not, Bearcat Nation, we need you loud and proud, bringing the energy. Let's go Cats, man.
Go Bearcats. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Yeah. Enjoy your holiday. Happy Thanksgiving.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.